We are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my spoiler-free review and then spoiler-ridden thoughts on the 1999 movie 10 Things I Hate About You. So I will verbally warn before I get into any spoilers. And yeah, the first chunk of this video is 100% safe to watch, even if you know nothing at all about the movie. The movie is rated PG-13, so will this video be. Absolutely love this movie, and I think that is it for the intro. So yeah, welcome back to more Women's History Month. We're looking at another movie primarily targeted at teenagers, based on a book. This time it is a romantic comedy, and it's based off William Shakespeare. This was one of multiple movies that came out around that time that were trying to get teenagers interested in Shakespeare. I think this is the only one of them that I ever watched, so I cannot make comparisons. And I think I was already pretty interested in Shakespeare, but yeah, if not, this would definitely have done it. This is more complex than you might think, and on account of my back pain, I'm not going to be able to sit for long enough to go into all of it. Thankfully, it isn't necessary for me to do so, because Art at Midnight already did an excellent video on it, which I will be linking in the description box. Just keep in mind, it does spoil the entire movie, so make sure you watch it after watching the movie, but yeah, make sure, you know, that you watch that video. In general, her channel is excellent. This movie is more dynamic and visual than a lot of high school movies. A lot of them do kind of settle for the setting and the 30-year-old cast carrying it, but here high school actually feels as alive and vivid as it is in real life. It must have taken an incredible amount of planning to carry out some of these with how much is happening. You know, an early example is when the character Cameron is introduced to the various social groups, and there's also a bit where sports is, you know, taking place, and yeah, these scenes have lots of extras. It must have taken forever to figure out exactly how fast and when everyone needed to move so that it looks good for the camera and no one's bumping into each other and stuff. There are other tracking shots that at times resemble POV. Just, yeah, in general, filmed and edited really well. And it is very Shakespearean, the way that sometimes something important will happen in the frame, but not to major characters. The cast are all on point. Like Krumholtz, you know, I love him in Addams Family Matters, more recently Oppenheimer. This might be my favorite performance of his. He is just so freaking good. He is very much the character that explains things to, you know, he's been around for a while at this high school. Cameron is new, so he's explaining this stuff to Cameron, and thus also the audience, and just, it works incredibly well. He is very adorkable, as is Cameron himself, and just, yeah, you know, very much like a nerdy kind of character, but charming, and we're laughing with him a lot of the time, not only at him. And yeah, really every major character has some aspect to him that is interesting and or quirky. You know, there's this guidance counselor who spends her working hours writing erotic fiction. And yeah, the cast tend to play their strengths. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you know, already mentioned he's adorkable. There's also some moments where he's very confident and just, yeah, you know, even at this point in his career, really just charming guy, you know. Julia Stiles, very strong personality. Heath Ledger, charming and dangerous. R.I.P., you know, it really is no wonder that he was extremely popular in roles like this. I would be lying if I claimed that overall his Joker is not my favorite performance of his, but I do think he does fantastic here. It's been forever since I watched the, what's it called? A Knight's Tale. I remember him being good in that. And he is, of course, also excellent in Brokeback Mountain. Yeah, Larry Miller is wonderfully obnoxious as always. I've never been unhappy at seeing him pop up in something. In addition to this, 8 Simple Rules, he's also great. He is one of the few things that I really do defend about the Nutty Professor movies. I usually do really love Eddie Murphy, and I don't necessarily think it's his fault that those movies are not very good. I think it is primarily the writing that's really at issue with those two. You're not going to like every single character. You're not supposed to. You will care about all of them. It's just, I would argue there's a very strong chance you will. I do. Many others do. And let's see. Yeah, I greatly appreciate the focus on making sure that the dialogue, whilst not quite Shakespearean, remains very witty. There's an absurd number of quotable lines here. I'm not sure there's a single line in this movie that is just completely boring. People paint pictures with words in this movie. They use SAT words. I don't think I want to give away who, in the spoiler-free review itself, but there is at least one character in this who has a more physical performance than you might at first think, and the actor does a fantastic job. The plot hits the ground running and never really slows down. I've forgotten, this is under 100 minutes. It manages to fit so much in. I really thought that this would be like 2 hours or more, and the soundtrack is amazing. Every single needle drop really fits. And there's strong chemistry between the various cast members. Sparks really do fly. There are multiple couples in this, and the ones that we're meant to hope last, yeah, it really, really works. And I think that does cover the entire spoiler-free. Yeah. So, let's get into the spoiler section. Just gonna note where, there we go. Yeah. So yeah, from here on out, we'll be spoiling absolutely everything. Do not watch any further if you haven't watched the movie. The introduction to Kat is perfect. The other Carve girls are listening to 1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies, which is an excellent song. And then she drives up by herself playing Bad Reputation, the Joan Jett song. So yeah, just fantastic. And the other girls are like, what is she doing? What planet is she from? And she's like, yeah, okay. Expressing my opinion is not terrorism. To think, back then that was actually true. I guess today Trump would throw in a detention center. Or does that only happen to immigrants? Yeah, I'm sure he'll find some way to start taking away even more freedom from native-borns as well. Considering what a jerk Bogey is, one can understand Michael's revenge, and it is hilarious when he asks them, can you take it outside, and then thanks them, even though they got outside by crashing through the patio door. I think that's what those things are called. I am not fluent in middle-class suburbia. And I did also really like, he's like, oh, that will be Nigel with the brie. He's handing out cigars, and one of them, picked up a thing, he's like, what did I just say? Put that thing down. And then, they're tearing up the... But, yeah, he doesn't even get to the door before it's busted down. And, yeah, I don't know if that's Nigel, but there is brie. That was what you wanted, wasn't it? Very nicely done when we first see Kat get up on the table and dance. It's actually in the background as Patrick and Joey are talking, so before they perceive it, we realize something bad is about to happen. We saw her down enough shots. There's a little bit of green in your eyes. How nice to find a flaw. And then she vomits. Now there's a little bit of green on his shoes, too. I really do appreciate that for how intense Patrick is for a lot of it. When Kat needs help, he steps up without any hesitation, not expecting anything in return. And in case you were wondering, yes, it is Julia Stiles that I'm saying has a great physical performance in this. I really appreciate that they have so many moments where her character is enjoying herself. We don't need more depictions of feminists that make us look like permanent buzzkills. She enjoys certain music and really gets into the paintball and such. Patrick even manages to make a little bit of time to help out. Cameron gives solid advice. She is or is not worth all this trouble. There is no use to think so. And also, the movie shows quite clearly, yeah, a lot of women, I suppose I can only really speak for straight women. I cannot speak for LGBTQ plus, but straight cis women, a lot of them really, what they want from the men in their lives doesn't have to be their partner. We just gotta show them that we care and we want to make things better for them. And yeah, they find adorkability charming if it's someone who doesn't have a repulsive personality. That one goes out to all the incels. It's not your looks, it's your personality. Which the good news is you can do something about. And the fact that confidence is appealing, we see that several times with several different characters in this. It is impossible for me to not laugh when Bianca accidentally shoots the gym teacher in the butt with the arrow. It cracks me up every single time, without fail. And we do see not long after, he's a jerk. It's one thing to confiscate pot. Cheetos? I really love Patrick serenading Kat in front of everyone. So cute, and her reaction does show, as mentioned, a lot of women just want to see that we care about them and are willing to do something that puts a smile on their face. Being unreasonable is no more inherent to women than it is to men, no matter how much misogynists might try to convince you. Now, to be clear, there are, of course, a lot of women who don't like big public romantic gestures like that, but then this is a Hollywood movie. You should not base too many of your actions on it. There are things to learn from it, but it's not a how-to. Because Kat has pulled the sarcastic antisocial act for so long, when she breaks from it, the teacher assumes she's just messing with him. And that is an actual issue in real life. If you come across as unpleasant for a long time, people might not believe you when you aren't that. And it is genuinely funny. He doesn't even have to look to know that she raised her hand. Yeah. And then, after she delivers the poem, which always gets to me. It's just such a great scene, and apparently done in one take. They didn't do multiple. Fantastic. And am I remembering right that? Let's see, there was more than I thought. I gotta get better at keeping track of my notes. How many more could there be? Holy crap. Wow. Okay. Okay. I believe I read somewhere that the crying was not in the script. That came naturally, But yeah, after that, she leaves the classroom, presuming that the teacher is probably going to tell her to go see the school counselor. I think they do a good job making Cameron not be an incel. He is frustrated when he thinks Bianca doesn't want him, but he doesn't go further than calling her out, and in private at that, not at the party. And, he doesn't say, why don't you like me? He says, you should have just been honest about not liking me. And that is fair. Regardless of gender, you shouldn't pretend to be romantically interested in someone if you genuinely aren't, And it is also one of those cases where Bianca is a female character that makes mistakes but learns from them, rather than one of those boring, overly perfect female characters. In general, this movie is free of the latter. I believe it was Princess Weeks right here on YouTube. Again, wonderful channel. Absolutely go subscribe and watch. Who pointed out that a movie like Birds of Prey does more for compelling representation for women than the Wonder Woman movies, on account of the birds being flawed human beings, where Diana Prince is essentially this idealized demigod. To be clear, the first Wonder Woman movie is great also. The fact that there are misogynists who will accurately call a male character complex, but if a female character is his equivalent, they will complain that she is unlikable, proves that we need more media that depicts women as the full human beings that they are. For a long time, they tended to be shown in a very negative light, these propagandistic, misogynistic ideas that serve to teach young people that women shouldn't have power, an absurd and deeply harmful belief. Then there was a while where we got a number, not necessarily enough, of movies that tried to go completely in the other direction, where the female characters could do no wrong, at least, you know, the protagonists and major characters on the side of the good guys and such. And the thing is, regardless of which of the two you get, there will be a lot of misogynists hating women. When there are misogynists in movies, the misogynist will say that those movies are accurate. When the movies present the women as perfect, the misogynist will call that propaganda. Obviously, if we were to go by the false dichotomy, it would be better out of movies where women are presented as perfect, but we don't have to. Rather, it's important for movies to show women as full people. This is one of those movies. This is in part crucial because the idealistic depictions can help feed into the damaging narrative of the perfect victim. In the real world, there is no such thing as a perfect victim, and depictions of them in fiction, like a lot of other aspects of media, can have a major impact on our perception of the real world. A lot of people reject sympathy for victims who are not perfect because media has taught them to only sympathize with the perfect victim. Bianca ends up not being with Joey on account of them disagreeing on the brilliance of Blue Steel. I do love that, you know, his comeuppance, the one thing he's put ahead of everything else, his status, his appearance, is where, you know, what is hurt, you know. And yeah, he probably lost that modeling gig, possibly others coming up, and definitely people don't think of him as equally as impressive as they used to. And I know we've graduated today, but beyond like 90s feminism, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think it was deeply cathartic and satisfying when Bianca, like, hits Joey. I quite appreciate that Miller gets more depth here than in other jerk roles of his, and he nails it. You know, it doesn't feel awkward like it does sometimes when a funny person has to do something sincere. Great little bit of setup and payoff. Early on, Patrick doesn't ask for very much money. Joey seems like he thinks he can find another solution, but then later Joey's the one offering a lot. Patrick spends it to do something Kat will like, you know, even though it's at the expense of his own dignity. And Patrick getting the band to play for Kat at prom is so sweet, as is Michael going as William Shakespeare with Kat's friend. And the movie ends the way it began, with a strong character moment for Kat, set to excellent pop rock. I love that they had the band up on top of the school building. Great outtakes during the end credits. Honestly, I wish more movies did that. Like, any movie that isn't super serious and has funny outtakes like that. And it is also interesting that, like, the very last one must be from like a deleted scene, and I can see how you could both where it would fit and also why ultimately they felt like we don't really need it, you know. And yeah, just some really great funny, yeah, I don't want to just say I laughed at every outtake. Yeah, some of it is dated, you know, obviously, but yeah. Yeah, I think that is everything that I tried to not just restate what Art at Midnight said. I hope I managed to completely avoid, but yeah. Yes. Another movie review next week, and until then, gonna do some episodes of TV shows and a video game review, and yeah, hope to catch you during one of those. And yeah, right, if one more thing I wanted to, yeah, the thing about how when Patrick is sort of caught in, well, yeah, caught in a lie and doesn't quite come forward immediately, he brings out a cigarette and puts it to his lips. Kat slaps it away and walks off. Because at the end of the day, he is hiding. He hasn't fully changed yet, and he reverts back to the old ways. Also, quite appreciated that it turns out a lot of what was said about him was just rumors, and yeah, he maybe didn't love for everyone to think of him as, oh, he spent all this time taking care of his sick grandfather, so he went along with, some of these really outlandish rumors. Right, also really appreciated that the thing that really sets off Cameron is Joey insulting Bianca, And yeah, because it's 90s and 90s feminism and such, the subversion is that it's not the guy, defending a woman's honor. It's, he tries but fails, and then the woman defends him and her own honor.